Buddy Byron Cox here, and coming to you with day 6. Is it? I think day 6 of our Read Daily Personal Development Challenge. Again, if you're already just joining us just now, we're reading out of this book, the new Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. We're actually on page 14, just above the new subheading. So I'll get started right away. In this book, I will endeavor to give you very practical ideas and instructions for liberating your own self-image, fully activating your own automatic success mechanism. If you will give all this a reasonable chance, I'm confident you too will be pleasantly amazed at all the positive changes you will experience. New scientific insights into the subconscious mind. There is admittedly debate about the actual structural makeup of the human mind. Crammed into your brain are more neurons than there are stars in the Milky Way, hundreds of billions of them, and an unimaginable number. Each of these neurons receives inputs from tens of thousands of other neurons and sends messages to tens of thousands of others, adding up to over 1 million billion connections. In his book about the brain, Bright Air, Brilliant Fire, neuroscientist Gerald Edelman speculated that if you were to attempt counting the links, one per second, you might finish 32 million years later. The operation is something roughly akin to your clicking on the You've Got Mail beeping icon on your computer and finding 10,000 or 20,000 email messages that require sorting, prioritizing, organizing, and responding to, just to get everything right so that you can accomplish the first simple task of your day, such as tying your shoelaces. You would melt down at the prospect, but your brain handles it in nanoseconds with aplomb. The brain is roughly 3 pounds, yet it contains the equivalent of entire cities full of giant buildings full of computer circuitry. It is surely the most complex and amazing thing we will ever discover. And it is still a frontier because research keeps uncovering new revelations about the human mind, about how the human mind operates. On top of the mechanical aspects, there are psychological and spiritual matters. The issue of the mind as the pathway to the soul, the conscious and subconscious, the Freudian concept of ID, the idea of 3 operating systems rather than 2, reptilian, limbic, and cerebral, left brain, right brain, and on and on. My take on all this has been criticized by some of the simplistic. It's possible that research continuing long after my departure will eventually demonstrate that I've been partly right and partly wrong, and will produce even better insights into practical and self-improvement. If and when that occurs, I'd applaud. But for now, let me just say that to you it should matter much whether it's some professor of psychology with lots of letters after his name looks down his nose at what we are discussing as oversimplistic. Lest you and I focus on the most important point, what works. And I can assure you that what we are discussing here has worked for thousands and thousands and thousands of people and will work for you. By work, I mean empower you to get more of what you want out of life. My exploration of the science of cybernetics convinced me that the so-called subconscious mind is not a mind at all, but a goal-striving servo mechanism consisting of the brain and nervous system, which is used and directed by the mind. The most usable concept is that man does not have 2 minds, but rather a mind, or consciousness, which operates an automatic goal-striving machine. This automatic goal-striving machine functions in much the same way as electronics servo mechanisms function, but it is much more marvelous, much more complex than any electronic brain, computer, or guided missile ever conceived by man. The creative mechanism within you is impersonal. It will work automatically and impersonally to achieve goals of success and happiness, or unhappiness and failure, depending upon the goals you set for your. Present it with success goals, and it functions as a success mechanism. Present it with negative goals, and it operates just as impersonally and just as faithfully as a failure mechanism. Like any other servo mechanism, it must have a clear-cut target, objective, or problem to work upon. In short, the goals you attempt to convey to this mechanism are filtered through the self-image, and if they are inconsistent with the self-image, they are rejected or modified. By discovering how to alter your self-image, you end its conflict with your goals. Then, if you can communicate your goals directly to your creative mechanism, it will do what is necessary for you to achieve them. Like any other servo mechanism, our creative mechanism uses the information and data we feed into it, our thoughts, beliefs, interpretations. Through our attitudes and interpretations of situations, we describe the problem to be worked on. If we feed information and data into our creative mechanism to effect that we ourselves are unworthy, inferior, undeserving, incapable, negative self-image, this data is processed and acted on as any other data in giving us the answer in the form of objective experience. When someone we know acts or when we behave in a way that is astoundingly wrong and wonder why, the answer is basically miscommunication with the servo mechanism. The servo mechanism is functioning perfectly but acting on a severe misunderstanding. In the excellent book Battling the Inner Dummy, id, The Craziness of Apparently Normal People, David Weiner and Dr. Gilbert Hefter state, "It is apparent that even the most civilized among us have inner craziness, a potential for irrationality with which we must contend." The computer jargon usually used by computer experts shrugging their shoulders at some wild misfunction is GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. In other words, if neuron channels process enough garbage and link together in a certain way, the outcome or output is garbage behavior. Like any other servo mechanism, our creative mechanism makes use of stored information or memory in solving current problems and responding to current situations. Sometimes this stored data can remain in control long after any truth or usefulness has evaporated. Again, quoting from Battling the Inner Dummy, this example: "You are no good. You will never amount to anything," we might be told by our father at the age of 10 after we just failed at a math quiz in school. This is the kind of statement that might become a limbic memory within our id, our inner dummy, and remain with us for years, if not for a lifetime. The reason it would remain with us rather than just bounce off like water off a duck's back is what they call limbic memory, or what I view only slightly differently as self-image imprinting. This is most controlled by three factors: authoritative source, intensity, and repetition. What we hear from a source we accept as authoritative, such as the Father we see as omnipotent, from whom we desperately seek acceptance as a child, is given far more weight than the same statements if heard from what is to us at the time a less credible source. What we see, hear, or experience with intensity, such as the Father yelling it at us in front of others, making us humiliated, has added weight. And what we hear repeatedly from authoritative sources has even more weight. Years after this programming has ceased, it may still be governing all sorts of behavior, because the servo mechanism continues acting upon it as current. Your program for more liberating living consists in, first of all, learning something about this creative mechanism or automatic guidance system within you. In the process, you will learn how to use it as a success mechanism rather than as a failure mechanism. Second, you will actually program and reprogram or engineer the personality and the life experiences you desire. It is not widely known, but the controversial Dr. Timothy Leary, a 1960s hippie icon, but also a scientist, was as fascinated with the link between mechanical cybernetics and the workings of the human mind as I. In an interview in 1992, Leary stated, "It is a genetic imperative to explore the brain, because it's there. If you're carrying around in your head 100 billion mainframe computers, you just have to get in there and learn how to operate them. I think it is your personal imperative to invest the time, energy, and study needed to better understand and use your mind power, including your self-image power. He also said, we can only understand our inner workings in the terms of the external mechanical or teleological models that we build. This program now in your hands is exactly that, a path to greater understanding of your own mind based on teleological models such as guided missile and computer technologies. The method itself consists in learning, practicing, and experiencing new habits of thinking, imagining, remembering, and acting in order to 1. Develop an adequate and realistic self-image, and 2. Use your creative mechanism to bring success and happiness in achieving particular goals. While the human mind is an endless complex creation, and while you could read hundreds of texts by neuroscientists and be no further along in improving your use of your own mind, self-improvement with Psycho-Cybernetics can be remarkably simple, and it offers rapid results. If you can remember, worry, or tie your shoe, you can succeed at Psycho-Cybernetics. That's going to end our lesson for today. We'll pick up next time on page 18.